A devoted wife hands over $25,000 to her husband for what she believes is their dream investment, trusting the man she has loved for 8 years with their entire savings. But 18 months later, she walks into a wedding ceremony, and what she discovers there will leave you absolutely stunned and prove that sometimes the most devastating betrayals lead to the most empowering victories. Rebecca Martinez had always believed in the power of trust. At 32 years old, she had built what seemed like the perfect life with her husband Nathan Crawford in the quiet community of Riverside Heights. Their modest 2-bedroom home on Oakwood Avenue was filled with laughter, dreams, and the kind of love that made their neighbors envious. Nathan, a 35-year-old sales manager at a local electronics company, had a way of making Rebecca feel like the most important person in the world. Every morning, he would bring her coffee in bed, kiss her forehead, and tell her about his plans to give her everything she deserved. Rebecca worked as a dental hygienist at Dr. Harrison's practice downtown, and together they had saved $25,000 over 3 years, money they planned to use for their future home and maybe starting a family. Their relationship had always been built on honesty. When they met at a community barbecue 8 years earlier, Nathan had been refreshingly upfront about his past struggles with debt and his determination to build a stable future. Rebecca admired his transparency and his drive to better himself. She had watched him work extra hours, take night classes to improve his sales skills, and gradually transform from someone living paycheck to paycheck into a man with genuine ambition. Nathan had a natural charm that drew people in. His colleagues respected him, his friends enjoyed his company, and Rebecca's family had welcomed him with open arms from the very beginning. He remembered birthdays, anniversaries, and the small details that mattered. When Rebecca's mother fell ill the previous year, Nathan had been the one organizing meal trains and coordinating family visits to the hospital. But what Rebecca treasured most about Nathan was his vision for their future. He spoke passionately about the life they would build together, the house with a big backyard where their children could play, the vacations they would take to Europe, the financial security that would allow Rebecca to pursue her dream of opening her own dental practice someday. These conversations usually happened during their Sunday morning walks around Riverside Park, when Nathan would point to the beautiful homes in the established neighborhoods and promise that their hard work would pay off. Rebecca's own background had taught her the value of patience and sacrifice. Growing up as the daughter of immigrants who had built their small restaurant business from nothing, she understood that achieving dreams required time, effort, and sometimes taking calculated risks. Her parents, Carlos and Maria Martinez, had instilled in her the importance of supporting your partner's ambitions while maintaining your own identity and goals. At Dr. Harrison's practice, Rebecca was known for her gentle touch with anxious patients and her meticulous attention to detail. She had been working there for 6 years and had earned the trust of both her employer and the patients who specifically requested her for their cleanings. The job provided stability and good benefits, but Rebecca often found herself daydreaming about the dental practice she hoped to open in the future, a place where she could focus on helping low-income families access quality dental care. Nathan seemed to understand these dreams better than anyone. He would spend hours listening to Rebecca's ideas about her practice, offering suggestions and encouragement. He even helped her research business loan options and market analysis for dental practices in their area. This support made Rebecca feel incredibly grateful to have found a partner who genuinely wanted to see her succeed. Their social circle consisted mainly of other young couples from their neighborhood and Nathan's colleagues from the electronics company. They hosted game nights every other Friday, attended community events together, and had become the couple that others looked to as an example of a healthy, loving relationship. Rebecca's best friend, Diana Ruiz, often joked that she wanted to find a Nathan of her own, someone who was so obviously devoted to making his partner happy. The decision to combine their savings had been mutual, or so Rebecca believed. They had been discussing their financial goals one evening in March, when Nathan mentioned an investment opportunity that had come to his attention through work. He explained that one of his clients, a successful businessman named Robert Chen, had offered him a chance to invest in a commercial real estate venture that promised significant returns within 18 months. Nathan presented the opportunity carefully, showing Rebecca printed emails and documents that seemed legitimate. He explained that Robert was looking for small investors to pool resources for purchasing and renovating a strip mall in the growing suburb of Westfield. The investment required exactly $25,000, their entire savings, but Nathan assured Rebecca that Robert had successfully completed similar projects before. What convinced Rebecca was not just the potential financial return, but Nathan's obvious excitement about finally being able to provide the life he had promised her. He spoke about how this investment could accelerate their timeline for buying a house and starting a family by several years. The look in his eyes when he described their future made Rebecca feel like saying yes was not just a financial decision, but an act of love and faith in their partnership. The transfer of their life savings happened on a Tuesday morning in April. Rebecca remembered the date clearly because it was the same day she had her annual performance review at Dr. Harrison's practice, a review that had gone exceptionally well and resulted in a raise that made her feel optimistic about their financial future. Nathan had insisted on handling all the details of the investment himself, explaining that Robert Chen preferred to work directly with the primary investor to avoid complications. Rebecca found this reasonable, especially since Nathan had more experience with business relationships through his sales work. She signed the necessary paperwork to transfer funds from their joint savings account, trusting that Nathan would keep her informed about the progress of their investment. For the first few months, everything seemed to be proceeding exactly as Nathan had described. He would come home with updates about the property acquisition, renovation plans, and timeline projections. He showed Rebecca photos of the strip mall that Robert had purchased, pointing out the improvements that were being made and explaining how each renovation would increase the property's value and rental income potential. Rebecca felt proud to be part of something that felt so grown-up and sophisticated. When her colleagues at the dental practice asked about her financial plans, she would mention the real estate investment with a sense of satisfaction. She and Nathan were not just saving money anymore. They were actively growing it through smart business decisions. But small inconsistencies began to appear in Nathan's updates. The timeline for completion kept shifting slightly, always with reasonable explanations about permit delays or contractor availability. The photos he showed her seemed to progress slowly, and sometimes Rebecca noticed that the same images were presented weeks apart, as if they represented new progress. More troubling was the change in Nathan's behavior during this period. The man who had always been transparent about every aspect of his life began taking phone calls in private, stepping outside or into their bedroom when certain calls came in. When Rebecca asked about these conversations, Nathan would explain them as routine check-ins with Robert or discussions about technical details that would not interest her. Nathan also began working longer hours, claiming that his success with the real estate investment had led to additional opportunities at his electronics company. He was frequently out of the house for evening meetings or weekend consultations with potential clients. While Rebecca was proud of his growing success, she began to feel disconnected from the partner who had always made their relationship his top priority. The most significant change was in their social interactions. Nathan began declining invitations to their regular game nights and community events, claiming that his expanded work responsibilities left him too exhausted for socializing. When they did attend gatherings, he seemed distracted and eager to leave early. Rebecca found herself making excuses for his absence more and more frequently. Rebecca's growing unease reached a breaking point in September, when she decided to surprise Nathan at his office with lunch on his birthday. She had called ahead to confirm he would be available, and his assistant had assured her that Nathan was in the building. But when Rebecca arrived with his favorite meal from the Italian restaurant downtown, she was told that Nathan had left for an extended lunch meeting and would not be back until late afternoon. Confused and slightly hurt, Rebecca decided to wait in the parking lot to see if Nathan's car was really gone. After 30 minutes, she spotted his blue sedan returning to the office, but Nathan was not alone. In the passenger seat was a young woman with long blonde hair, who Rebecca did not recognize. The woman appeared to be in her early 20s, professionally dressed, and was laughing at something Nathan had said as they pulled into his parking space. Rebecca watched from across the parking lot as Nathan and the unknown woman sat in his car for several more minutes, their conversation appearing intimate and comfortable. When they finally got out of the car, Nathan leaned in to hug the woman goodbye, a gesture that lasted longer than any professional interaction should. The woman then got into her own car and drove away, while Nathan walked into the office building as if nothing unusual had happened. Instead of confronting Nathan immediately, Rebecca decided to drive home and think about what she had witnessed. She spent the rest of the afternoon trying to rationalize the interaction. Perhaps the woman was a new colleague or a client. who had needed transportation. Perhaps the extended hug was simply Nathan being friendly and professional. But the nagging feeling in her stomach suggested that something was not right. When Nathan came home that evening, he acted completely normal. He thanked Rebecca for thinking of him on his birthday and apologized for missing her lunch visit, explaining that an important client had requested an urgent meeting that could not be rescheduled. He showed her a small gift he claimed the client had given him, an expensive-looking watch that seemed far too personal for a business relationship. Over the following weeks, Rebecca began paying closer attention to details she had previously overlooked. Nathan's explanations for his schedule changes became more elaborate and sometimes contradictory. He received text messages at odd hours that he would quickly silence or ignore when Rebecca was nearby. Most concerning, he began showing less interest in discussing their real estate investment, brushing off Rebecca's questions about progress with vague assurances that everything was proceeding smoothly. The breaking point came in November, when Rebecca decided to conduct her own research into Robert Chen and the Westfield Strip Mall project. What she discovered through online searches and county records would change everything she thought she knew about her marriage and their future together. Rebecca's investigation began with simple internet searches that should have yielded basic information about the Westfield commercial development project. Instead, she found nothing. No permits filed under Robert Chen's name, no commercial real estate transactions matching Nathan's descriptions, and no strip mall renovations in the area he had specified. Growing more concerned, Rebecca decided to drive to Westfield to see the property for herself. The address Nathan had provided led her to an empty lot with a for sale sign that had clearly been there for years. The neighboring businesses had no knowledge of any recent development projects or anyone named Robert Chen. But Rebecca's most devastating discovery came when she decided to investigate the mysterious woman from Nathan's office. Using social media searches and cross-referencing with Nathan's work contacts, she identified the woman as Sophia Williams, a 24-year-old marketing coordinator who had started working at Nathan's company 6 months earlier. Sophia's social media profiles revealed a timeline that made Rebecca's blood run cold. Photos showed Sophia wearing expensive jewelry, dining at upscale restaurants, and taking weekend trips to luxury resorts, all lifestyle changes that had begun around the same time. Nathan had started his supposed investment project. More damning were the subtle couple photos that someone careful enough could recognize as being taken with Nathan, though his face was always strategically cropped out or obscured. The final piece of evidence came when Rebecca found charges on their credit card statement for a jewelry store she did not recognize. When she called the store pretending to inquire about a warranty, the salesperson mentioned the beautiful engagement ring Nathan had purchased for his fiancée just 2 weeks earlier. Rebecca's world collapsed in that moment. Not only had Nathan stolen their entire life savings under false pretenses, but he had used that money to fund a relationship with another woman and was planning to marry her. The betrayal was so complete and calculated that Rebecca initially felt paralyzed by the magnitude of the deception. But paralysis quickly gave way to determination. Rebecca realized that Nathan's elaborate lies had been documented through bank records, credit card statements, emails, and social media evidence. She had everything needed to expose his fraud, but she wanted to do more than simply confront him privately. Nathan had not just stolen money, he had stolen years of her life, her trust, and her dreams for their future. Rebecca spent the next month carefully planning her response. She gathered all financial documents, printed evidence of Nathan's relationship with Sophia, and consulted with a lawyer about her legal options. But her most important discovery was the date and location of Nathan and Sophia's wedding, which she found through Sophia's social media posts about wedding planning. The wedding was scheduled for December 15th at the elegant Riverside Country Club, a venue that Rebecca recognized as being far beyond what Nathan could afford on his actual salary. She realized that her own money was paying for Nathan's wedding to another woman. Instead of trying to stop the wedding or confront Nathan beforehand, Rebecca decided to let the ceremony proceed exactly as planned. She arranged to attend as an uninvited guest, bringing with her a carefully prepared presentation that would expose the truth to everyone Nathan and Sophia cared about. On the morning of December 15th, Rebecca dressed in her most professional outfit and drove to Riverside Country Club. She arrived just as the ceremony was beginning and took a seat in the back row, unnoticed by the wedding party and guests. who were focused on the beautiful couple exchanging vows. Nathan looked handsome in his expensive tuxedo, smiling broadly as he promised to love and cherish Sophia forever. Sophia was radiant in a designer wedding dress that Rebecca estimated must have cost several $1,000s. The ceremony was everything Rebecca had once dreamed of for her own wedding. Elegant, romantic, and surrounded by family and friends celebrating true love. When the officiant asked if anyone had objections to the marriage, Rebecca stood up. The murmur that went through the crowd was immediate, but nothing compared to the shock on Nathan's face when he turned to see his wife of 8 years standing in the back of the venue. Rebecca walked calmly down the aisle, carrying a folder of documents and speaking in a clear, steady voice that carried throughout the silent venue. She introduced herself to the confused guests as Nathan Crawford's current wife, legally married for 8 years, and explained that she had some important information to share about the groom. What followed was a methodical presentation of Nathan's fraud. Rebecca showed bank statements proving that Nathan had stolen $25,000 from their joint savings account under false pretenses. She presented evidence of his fictitious investment scheme, including the fake documents he had created to deceive her. Most damaging, she revealed the timeline of Nathan's relationship with Sophia, proving that he had been using stolen money to fund his affair, while lying to both women about his intentions. The reaction from the wedding guests was immediate and dramatic. Sophia's family was horrified to learn that Nathan was already married and had funded their daughter's courtship through theft. Nathan's own family and friends were shocked to discover the extent of his deception. Several guests began photographing the documents Rebecca had brought, ensuring that the evidence would be preserved and shared. Nathan attempted to deny Rebecca's accusations, but the evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. Sophia, realizing that her entire relationship was built on lies and stolen money, removed her wedding ring and threw it at Nathan before running from the venue in tears. Her father, a prominent local businessman, immediately began discussing criminal charges and restitution. But Rebecca was not finished. She announced to the remaining guests that she was filing for divorce immediately and pursuing criminal charges for theft and fraud. She also revealed that she had contacted the local media about Nathan's wedding day exposé, ensuring that his professional reputation would be destroyed along with his personal relationships. As Nathan stood alone at the altar, abandoned by his bride and facing the complete destruction of his carefully constructed lies, Rebecca felt a sense of justice that was far more satisfying than any amount of money could have provided. The aftermath of Nathan's wedding day humiliation was swift and comprehensive. Within 48 hours, local news outlets had picked up the remarkable revenge tale, making Nathan's deception a cautionary tale that spread throughout their community and beyond. The story resonated with people who had experienced similar betrayals, turning Rebecca into an unexpected symbol of empowerment and justice. Nathan's professional life collapsed immediately. His employer terminated his position within days of the wedding incident, citing the theft charges and negative publicity as incompatible with their company values. The criminal investigation that followed led to charges of theft, fraud, and identity theft. Nathan eventually pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 18 months in prison, along with mandatory restitution of the full $25,000 plus interest and legal fees. Sophia Williams, devastated by the revelation that her entire relationship had been built on deception and stolen money, chose to leave town and start over in another state. She later reached out to Rebecca through a lawyer to apologize for her unwitting role in the betrayal and to offer her testimony in the criminal case against Nathan. For Rebecca, the experience became a powerful catalyst for personal transformation. The legal proceedings resulted in her recovering not only the stolen money, but additional compensation for emotional distress and legal expenses. More importantly, the ordeal taught her valuable lessons about trust, self-advocacy, and the importance of maintaining financial independence within relationships. Rebecca used her experience to help other women who had faced similar betrayals. She began volunteering with a local organization that provided support and legal resources to victims of financial abuse. Her story became part of workshops and support groups, helping others recognize warning signs and take protective action. Professionally, Rebecca's newfound confidence and public recognition led to unexpected opportunities. Dr. Harrison offered her a partnership in expanding their practice, and Rebecca found herself finally pursuing the dream of opening her own dental clinic, focused on serving underserved communities. The financial settlement from Nathan's case provided the initial investment she needed to make this vision a reality. Perhaps most remarkably, Rebecca discovered that her dramatic wedding day confrontation had inspired other victims of fraud to come forward with their own stories. Nathan's case led to the discovery of several other financial schemes he had attempted, resulting in additional charges and helping other victims find closure. 2 years after the wedding day incident, Rebecca had built a thriving dental practice, established a non-profit organization for financial abuse survivors, and found love again with someone who shared her values of honesty and mutual respect. She often reflected on how Nathan's betrayal, devastating as it was, had ultimately led her to a life that was more authentic and fulfilling than anything she had imagined during their marriage. The story of Rebecca's revenge became a reminder that while betrayal can be devastating, it can also be the catalyst for discovering inner strength and creating positive change. Her experience proved that sometimes the most empowering response to deception is not just seeking justice, but using that experience to help others and build something better from the ashes of broken trust. Rebecca's final piece of advice to others facing similar situations was simple but powerful. Trust your instincts, document everything, and remember that you have more strength than you realize. Sometimes the worst betrayals lead to the best transformations, and justice served publicly can be the most healing form of closure. If you found Rebecca's incredible transformation inspiring, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself in a difficult situation? What gave you the courage to take action? Your stories might help someone else find their own strength. Do not forget to subscribe to True Crime Seat for more real-life stories of justice, survival, and empowerment. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. And remember, sometimes the most devastating betrayals lead to the most powerful comebacks.